So, Nicholas, we ready?
Nicholas?
Walk back and forth 50 times each.
Mike, you're going to read the land. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and I'll call on Councillor Didavides to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. The land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hatiwandarunk and the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississauga of the Credit First Nations. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands in which we live.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and seconder to adopt the agenda? I got Councillor DeRose and Councillor D'Angelo. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We'll move to presentations, and I'll call on our CAO, Manoj Dalwaria, to provide a budget summary before we get going tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to provide an overview of what has been discussed and agreed upon at our first budget meeting held on January 23rd. Nicholas, if you can put the presentation.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, January 23rd, this motion was approved by Council. I'm just going to quickly go through it. That the following amendments were made to the 2024 budget by the City Council held on January 23rd, 2024. That all 21 new positions proposed in Amendment Appendix 3 of the report DF2 2024 operating budget and impact be approved to begin 2024. This motion is final and approved with the passing of Bill 8 2024. Position start date are still up for consideration with the balance of the operating budget. Also, that the 2024 budget as presented in the appendix of report DF2 2024 be amended as follows, and then there are 5 items has been added or amended. So the start date for HR coordinator be amended to April 1st as a saving of 16,000 to the operating budget. 25,000 be added to the annual operating budget for the improvement of city's baseball diamonds. 10,000 be added to the annual 2024 budget for a study to add lighting to Beaver Dams Park, and that it be funded from the park reserves. That 2,000 be added to the planning division LACAC operating budget for heritage designation advertisements, and that 10,000 be added to the events operating budget. That the 10,000 be used in 2024 to extend the Canada Day Battle of Beaver Dams Park setup for a 3rd day to allow for the TD Niagara Jacks Festival concert, and that any surplus from this amount each year be transferred to reserve and be carried forward to be used to offset the event's operating budget for the following year. This is what has been agreed upon by Council at the last meeting. Nicholas, the next slide. So you have seen that this is where we are. We started at 2.99 when we, if you look at the bottom right corner, 2.99, that was our starting point. And the amendments that Council has made, which is when you look at the levy impact, the end result or at the end of January 2024, 23rd January 24, we were at 3.10. So that's where we have left. And then the other thing is that Council has directed staff to review the positions and their start dates. So senior management team got together and we we are recommending the following position be moved back to obtain additional savings. So Nicholas, if you can get to the next slide. So this is where we are. So if you look at HR coordinator has already been moved from 1st of February to 1st of April, and that savings of 16,000 has already been achieved or has already been accounted for. The customer service representative is moved from 1st of April to 15th of April with a saving of $8,900. Legislative and election coordinator moved from 1st of July to 15th of July, saving of $4,100. And then admin to engineering, project manager, and admin to facilities and community services, all three positions, and also planner moved from 1st of July to 1st of August, resulting in the additional savings. So at the end, we have additional savings of $31,000 by shifting the start date of these positions. So if I bring back the same spreadsheet that we have shown you before, so with that, we are starting at 2.95 and with negative $10,000. So that concludes my summary, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I'm going to now call on Jeff Holman, Director of Public Works and Community Services, for an overview on capitals.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a couple of minutes to give some context as to how the capital forecast was prepared and the budget projects that are in front of you. Just to help you understand what goes into the thought process, the Director of Finance in her report has done an excellent job to explain on page 12 how the 10-year capital forecast provides council with a radar screen for projects that are have been identified in asset management plans, the city's master plans, infrastructure condition ratings, growth-related capital projects that are on the books, and any legislated mandates that that have to be addressed. The list, though, is always subject to a number of changes and things like unplanned emergency repairs, some budget overruns, successful grant applications that allow projects to jump the queue, and project preparedness. It's really when you make your decision on the annual budget that the capital project is moving ahead. And I wanted to just provide that context because there has been some discussion about, deferring projects and that type of thing. The list of deferred projects starts on page 32, and you can see that those are projects that the council has reported, has been reported to on, has made decisions about moving the projects on. We just can't seem to fit them in the funding envelope that we've been given. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to do them. It just means that we can't do them right away. And one of those projects that we've heard some correspondence from, or had some correspondence from the public on, is the South Main Street Bridge. And this talk about deferral really isn't a matter of deferring the project. We're going as quickly as we can on it. In fact, council has committed to this in 3 reports over the past year or so, including one that was approved by council 2 council meetings ago to get the geotechnical studies completed. So we hope to have that work completed by the 3rd quarter, 4th quarter of this year, in time to put together budgets for discussion next year. But it doesn't make sense to include construction funding in a year where you know for sure that you're really not going to get the project out. And this project is complex. It has a number of environmental features and conditions that we don't even know yet, quite frankly. So I wanted to just kind of share that information with you because I know that we'll be looking at the capital projects on the list and wanting to make sure that they are the ones that we want to advance this year. But there's always more projects that we want to do than there is money, and that's when it's difficult to make those hard decisions.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Okay, I'm going to move on to delegations now, respecting budget 2024. Up first, I'll call on Michelle Elise Burnett and Fred Neal from the One Thorold Committee. It's actually the One Thorold Indigenous Subcommittee for their delegation respecting the 2024 budget. Please note, you have a combined 10 minutes to address City Council. And so I think, who's going, are you going first? I want to say Councillor Neal, but it's Fred Neal.
And I was going to say fellow councilors tonight, but I thought I better not do that. Now, Mr. Mayor, of course, I am Fred Neal. I'm chair of the One Thorold Indigenous Committee. I live at 32 Metcalfe Street, Thorold, Ontario. Truth and reconciliation. There are two words, but they have great meaning. The meaning will always be etched in my mind. I lived in Eagle Place, Brantford during 1965, 1966, going to work past a beautiful school building with young people playing outside. Little did I know that this was the Anglican Indigenous Residential School, with hundreds of children dying and being buried there until truth came out about the atrocities being performed. No one told any of us. I needed to do something to help the process in the atrocities inflicted on the children at the residential schools. I brought this initiative forward to the One Thorold group of organizations to create an Indigenous committee to develop programming and educating people of what truth and reconciliation means, which was supported. I approached Michelle Elise Burnett from the LON 360 Indigenous organization that I saw speak at Brock's Symposium. I had worked with her mother on another city project. Michelle Elise came on board. Reverend Canon Catherine Morgan, sitting in the council chambers tonight, of St. John's Anglican Church, Dan Peltier, CAO of the TCAG at the time, Mark Kawabi, president of the Thorold Chamber of Commerce, and Rosaire Tisdale, who is Indigenous and is the chair of the Malsford Committee, became part of our committee. The Indigenous Committee then approached the City of Thorold in 2023 for approval and funding to develop the programs on truth and reconciliation. This was approved by Council in the amount of $44,000. Over the last few years, the Indigenous Committee, in partnership with the city, have worked together on educating people on Indigenous issues through establishing the Unity Healing Garden, shaped in the form of a turtle which represents North America in Indigenous culture. Michelle Elise has established teaching programs bringing in Indigenous leaders to educate people, including school student classes on truth and reconciliation of the Indigenous ways and history. Thorold has a unique Indigenous history. As an example, the Battle of Beaver Dams, fought entirely by Indigenous people and helped drive the Americans back to the U.S., keeping us Canadian, or we wouldn't be here today. Another example, Indigenous trails and former settlements located along Beaver Dams and DeQ roads near the Unity Garden has been in the past. Mr. Mayor, I introduce you and Council and the general public to Michelle Elise Burnett, Indigenous Program Coordinator of the One Thorold Indigenous Committee.
Thank you, Fred, and welcome, Michelle.
Chimigwech, Annie, bonsoir, and good evening. And thank you, Mayor Ugliani, as well as to the councillors for this invitation this evening. But I believe that Fred has said everything, so I think we can probably adjourn. No, just. But I really want to share the magic that's happened over the last year and that we've created together collectively at the Indigenous Unity Garden this past year, and to share the visions of this coming year. Gitche Manitou, the creator, gave all gifts to creation to share amongst each other. And Gitche Manitou also reminds us that those gifts come with great responsibilities. And our first responsibility is that of gratitude. And gratitude for all life-sustaining gifts that Mother Earth provides us. She is our greatest role model, one who unwaveringly demonstrates generosity and gratitude without ever asking anything in return. But we as humans, or the two-leggeds as we call ourselves, we have a lot to learn from our older and wiser relatives, and we need to be reminded that our very own existence lies in the gifts of others in the natural world. Myself, and on behalf of the Indigenous community of Niagara, we are grateful to the City of Thorold's unwavering commitment towards the Indigenous Unity Garden Legacy Project. It is truly commendable. Your dedication has set a new bar in working collaboratively with Indigenous peoples, and you will hear later on in this presentation how you have directly ignited other cities to emulate the steps you have taken towards the 94 calls to action by the TRC. The gratitude goes much deeper for us. Thorold's Indigenous Unity Garden sits on Indigenous ancestral lands and has become the community's focal point for Indigenous gatherings. The youth from just to give an example, the youth from the IDHC have made their weekly evening healing drum circle gathering at the Unity Garden. We've had several moon ceremonies, grandmother moon ceremonies, and sunrise ceremonies there, and so much more. This says a great deal of how connected our people are to the space and the gratitude they have for the city. Grateful for the openness and willingness to help support these meaningful events. Everyone has gone above and beyond. In all of my years in working in the Niagara region, Thorold has definitely stepped up to really work with us and to walk with us, and for that we're extremely grateful. In our inaugural year, we have welcomed thousands of visitors to the Unity Garden to explore a truly organic and authentic Indigenous experience in Niagara's only ongoing Indigenous outdoor classroom. And I want to stress it's the only ongoing outdoor classroom and Indigenous experience in Niagara. We curated unique individual programs for many school groups. Some came as far as Toronto and Halton, and of course we had many of our visitors here in our own backyard. They enjoyed interactive land-based teachings from knowledge keepers, elders, grandmothers, who shared various cultural teachings, workshops, songs, dances, history, gardening. You can probably see some of the pictures as it evolves, and storytelling. And along with the school groups, the Unity Garden was honored to welcome the University of Melbourne's Indigenous medical professionals for a whole day of sharing ways of bridging Western medicine with traditional medicine, with our grandmothers and our traditional medicine healers. We also enjoyed a day with Wolf Lake First Nation, who specifically booked time to come and meet and learn about our Indigenous territories here in the Niagara region and our deep connection to the Niagara. This in itself speaks for the need of a place like the Unity Garden. It is a unique tour experience. It's also a unique tour program that holds great appeal for Canadians and people from around the world. The growth of the Indigenous tourism is accelerating due to unprecedented demand. Indigenous tourism outpaced mainstream tourism with an estimated 23.5% growth in the last decade. For more and more international visitors are seeking authentic cultural and land-based Indigenous experiences. Interest has grown significantly, and the levels, for example, from France is 63%, Germany 47%, China 35%, and the US 33%. These demographics represent a global market consisting of lifelong learners. And there is nothing else in Niagara to date that offers a true Indigenous experience to our visitors seeking this opportunity. Last year, we curated several key events which brought many visitors to engage in cultural teachings, interactive workshops, and activities. After a beautiful unveiling on April 22nd on Earth Day, we started with Spring Awakens to uncover Mother Earth from her blanket of snow and prepared her for the growing season. Celebrating Indigenous Month with various events each weekend, we also celebrated and honored and held space for Orange T-Shirt Day and Truth and Reconciliation Day. And we closed the season with the Honest Harvest Festival, time when we harvest the garden and tucked Mother Earth in for her resting period. As part of the ongoing program, we launched a community garden group collective who would come together every other Saturday to learn about Indigenous ways of nurturing the garden, learn about Indigenous plants and their medicines, and ways to apply them in everyday life. We also held sound baths, drumming, and mindful movement meditation classes, Grandmother Moon ceremonies. And I'm pleased to report that to date, we have over 100 people who have signed up to become part of the Unity Community Garden Collective, and that is still growing to this date. The community is grateful for the platform to share our beautiful teachings, our history, and our culture. They are also grateful since this has also been a source of revenue to feed their families. Many of our people live in poverty, and yet they are rich in knowledge, wisdom, and love. And by hiring our community, we have actively encouraged them to dream and to take those dreams and turn them into reality. We have empowered them, built confidence, self-esteem, now contributors to the economic growth, and proud to be part of structuring paths in the place that we live in by honoring the generations before us and honoring the 7 generations ahead of us. We are today being great ancestors. So in the inaugural year, Thorold Indigenous Garden, we were highlighted in several articles, television interviews, and has the city of has the city of Hamilton and Brantford Ridley College interested in also creating an interactive outdoor classroom of their own. Collectively, we are trailblazing, igniting, and creating, designing, and curating programs that convey the meaning, depth, substance, and significant contributions of Indigenous cultures to history. We are without a doubt implementing the 94 calls to action and calling on others to follow suit. So the recognition that we are getting in our own backyard is due in large part because of our partnership with the city, the councilors, and staff. You all understand the importance of committing to Indigenous presence by supporting initiatives like the Indigenous Unity Garden and its ongoing programming, and for that we're extremely grateful. This year we're not looking to increase the budget, but rather to reallocate the funds. We will also be actively looking for partnerships and collaborations to help support our initiatives. I see us continuing with similar programming as we did last year with a few tweaks. Because Thorold is home to some of the most historical places in Canada, not to mention places of Indigenous importance, we will be adding phase 1 of the Sonic Indigenous Trail Tour to reignite and regenerate the lands of Indigenous ancestors walked before us. Starting at the Unity Garden, the trail is a QR code-based audio installation, a journey to reawaken the senses and reconnect with our natural world in order to strengthen and rebalance our innate symbiotic and reciprocal relations with our older and wiser relatives, and a time to replenish our souls and elicit kinship to learn about our Indigenous ancestors. So with that, we're all hoping to basically position Thorold as the Indigenous experience hub of Niagara. The vision is to engage local businesses and to create the 1 to 2 night visitor stay, but that is a longer term vision. So with that, I say thank you, Chi Miigwech, for listening to us today, and look forward to working and walking with you in the future.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Fred, and I'll open the floor if there's any questions to our presenters. Go ahead, Councillor Sentence. Questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you for coming. Great presentation, as always. I've been to a few of your events, and they're always very informative. My question is, do you have other events planned for this year already?
I think the sheet that was handed out.
Yeah, I haven't. I just got it now.
Oh, so, sorry?
Other events planned for this year?
Other events for the Unity Garden? Yes, it'll be very similar to sort of like structured out. So we'll be honoring the Earth Day, but also once again starting our season with Spring Awakens, where we do come together in circle. We have our prayers. We give gratitude to the natural world. We teach about that importance. We sing, and we will bring the community together where we will then start to prepare Mother Earth. It's kind of like a ceremony, so that will kick that off. We also, the one thing that we are adding on, so we will look at also Indigenous Month. And with Indigenous Month, instead of maybe sort of having it out with 3 different weekends over the month, is to really focus on one big day. And that's just from learning from last year. I feel that, well, something that we were discussing is to have something that's bigger that becomes like central, that every year everyone knows that we're going to have a smoke dance competition, which we know brings a lot of people. We might have a hand drum competition. So that right now, it's in the works. It might, so even a powwow down the road, who knows, mini powwow, but fashion shows. So there's a lot that we can start to bring on, but a lot of hands-on, interactive base workshops and activities. The big one that we'll be sort of focusing on is installing the Sonic Trail. And that's a QR base where anyone can go at any time and have an Indigenous experience in those lands.
Thank you.
I hope that answered.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sentence. Councillor Ditavides.
Great job, Michelle. Great job, Mr. Neal. Do you guys ever think about doing Beaver Dams Park, like doing a big event out there, hosting a big party, like really going big with this?
A big party?
Yes, a big
Absolutely.
fiesta.
Anytime.
Exactly. Like we did with Pride, to get all the drums out there, everybody drumming and singing.
We actually spoke earlier this year as well to that exactly. How can we bring an Indigenous presence to the festival? I think on, is it June 1st?
Canada Day
On Canada, sorry, on Canada Day. And yes, we are talking about bringing Indigenous presence and culture to that day.
Great, because I think you're doing a good job. I can see this growing bigger and bigger. And you got a good thing going now. Now we can't stop now. We've got to keep on pushing this.
That's right. We can't stop now. It's in motion.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. It was awesome. I just have some questions. I'm just looking at your events and whatnot. Have you approached any of the schools to see if there are students that are willing to come out and do like maintenance around the Unity Garden, or you know, some of our greenhouses for the plants, and also the marketing? I'm looking at the marketing. I mean, there's students at Brock University that are looking for hours or you know, putting their skills to task for something like that. Have you guys reached out to these places to see if they're willing to partner with you guys to help with some of the costs of things? Or
actually, Brock is a great idea, and reaching out is something that we're sort of actively doing right now. Last year it was kind of momentum time. It was I am not one to put social media up, so but I think that there are a lot of youth that will be able to help us, hopefully, with social media and marketing. I have hired someone right now to work with my companies, and she's in grade 12, and she's Indigenous. She's a bright, energetic young lady, and she will be hopefully she'll be able to help me with that. But I really like those ideas, is reaching out to our youth, because they do have the ability to work the new technology better than I.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great, because we have like Niagara College, we have Brock University. I mean, reaching out to them, you know, they're looking for a chance to, you know, show the skills that they have. So I think it's really something, you know, to consider.
Yeah, we just applied actually as well to for students, for summer students, and with the FedDev as well. So I'm hoping that they're going to come in. That's why I said we are reaching out and looking for support, and looking to everyone here as well for any other ideas, because we will need to have all hands on deck to grow it and to make sure that it grows in a positive way.
Thank you, Michelle.
I really appreciate.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thank you, Michelle and Fred, for coming in. Great presentation. I'm thrilled and have to congratulate you on the success of the Unity Garden. Beautiful addition to Thorold. I was fortunate to be out there on one of the few snow days we've had. It was very peaceful, very relaxing, and it's, as I say, a great addition. My question is, A little bit about, you spoke about the moonlight ceremony and the sunrise ceremony. Are those open to all residents?
Yeah.
Yes, the ones that we actually advertise, in the sense or market out and promote, they are open to all. And everything that we do at the Unity Garden, that's why it's called the Unity Garden, is to invite Indigenous and non-Indigenous to come and share the deep-rooted beauty of our culture and to interact with us and to learn. So yes, those will be. However, when we have some of the community members that are going and they're using that garden and that space for actual ceremonies that are closed. Mm-hmm. But those are not ones that we are supporting. Mm-hmm. And that really warmed my heart. And I've reached out to Thorold to ask them, can you help us, or can we do a fire on this date? And everyone's been so supportive. So, but yes, open to everyone.
So this question will come back to staff or the mayor perhaps. Are we advertising these on our websites and social media?
There are some of these events that are being put on our social media, some on the One Thorold social media site, but I think there's something to add is that working with our communications group to make sure we get them all. You know what I mean? Yep. It's a good point, but yes, we have, but I can't say if we've gotten them all, but that's something we can strive to make sure we do this year.
That'd be wonderful. And lastly, I love the idea of the Sonic Trail, so I wish you great success with that. I'm sure you'll come up with a super plan and look forward to hearing more about it and watching it develop. So thanks once again for coming to council tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Good to see you, Councillor Neal. I'll give you the honor since you're in the council chamber still. You've done a lot of work for our community, which we really appreciate. I just had a couple questions on the budget. I was looking at the budget, and are these numbers that you presented here, are they like net numbers? Like, do you look for sponsorships to help reduce some of the costs? Because I know we have other events going in our community. And we as councilors always ask, is there other sponsorship opportunities to bring down the cost? Because again, it falls in onto the taxpayer, but if we could sort of spread that, it makes it easier to, support programs. Maybe if you could elaborate that on a little bit on that, and then I got a couple other questions.
Yeah,
thanks.
Absolutely. This is a very draft budget, based a bit on what happened last year. So even with the marketing and promotions, it's kind of based on what the actuals came out to be. Last year, we were fortunate in one way to receive donations from some of the schools that attended, but unfortunately, we did not have a bank account open at the time. So, but we know that they will be looking at coming in with their schools and offering donations. So that's one way of kind of like partnering up with the schools and giving our students, specifically in Thorold, to give them that opportunity to come and experience the garden. And there could be a way of looking at that in the future and saying there could be a cost for schools because they do pay for experiences, and that could go back into our community Unity Garden budget or bank, I guess, account that we could use for future presentations and events. So that's one area that we could really look into. The other is to look at different businesses, BIAs, organizations that would like to partner with us, to collaborate with us, and that's something we're going to actively go out and speak to people. And that way, they also can then be part of moving the truth and reconciliation forward. So we look at it, and that was something we really wanted to do last year, but once again, last year just became such a, it just happened so fast. There was no time to breathe, but that is definitely, I have it all set up where we're going to go meet people, and we're hoping to raise funds that way and put some of those funds into this budget so that it would not be coming out of the taxpayers. I'm not sure how much, but we will do everything pound pavement. If you know anyone that wants to be part of this, tell them to call us.
Oh, thank you. And the other one, I was just looking at the marketing because it says TBA. Is that something that, because we talked about the city promoting that, is that something we can do from a city perspective? We do have a communications officer. We're going to have a special events coordinator. Is that something we could help out with this process to put the, to make the budget more favorable in terms of supporting it? Is that something that we can utilize some of the resources we already have or going to have after we pass this budget?
I would welcome that. I'd be so grateful for that. I think we all would be. That'd be great. That'd be one thing less to worry about, absolutely.
Okay, excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep, those are my questions at this point. Thank you again
Really
for the
appreciate
presentation.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to thank Michelle and Fred for coming to council, and thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Chimigwech.
Okay, up next, we have Ron Devereaux, resident from Port Robinson, and for his delegation respecting the 2024 budget. And please note, again, 10 minutes and to speak on budget matters. Welcome, Ron.
Doesn't appear so yet.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Ugolini, councilors, and staff. Mr. Mayor, 10 minutes to address all the Port Robinson East issues related to a large document like the 2024 budget? That's a daunting task, Mr. Mayor. They say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So after the first few minutes, I'll show you a lot of photographs that basically tell the story by themselves. Slide one, there we go. Budget item, reconstruction of the South Main Street Bridge. By far, this project has captured the most total community interest that I have ever seen in our village in the whole 38 years that I have lived there. So thanks to the Port Robinson residents who were able to be here tonight. Also, thank you to Bernard Langsbergen, reporter on the online Thorold newspaper, Thorold Today. His story on January 15th about the 2024 budget stated, quote, City Hall suggests deferring reconstruction of the South Main Street Bridge, end quote. That information set off alarm bells in Port Robinson East. Thank you to Jeff Holman for the comments you just made about deferring projects, but I still will continue with the comments I prepared. In the 2024 capital budget on page 010, slide 2, please, construction South Main Street Bridge is clearly listed as a deferral item, which is for deferral of the Phase 2 visible rehabilitation work of replacing the bridge deck and repairing the support piers. The downside reasons for deferring capital works items are given in the budget on pages 010 and 011. In this specific instance, on a project of this type and size, deferral is definitely a very negative move with very negative consequences. This project first came on the Thorold municipal radar in April of 2018. We are grateful for what has been done so far, but it's already taken 6 years to get to this point in this project. A comment at budget meeting number 1 last week of it's on the deferral list, but it's not being deferred, only adds to the confusion of what the term deferred means in the city budget. Also increasing the uncertainty is the fact that I can only find one budget entry item in the 10-year capital forecast on page 068 in the year 2027 for construction South Main Street Bridge for Phase 2 to actually not be done until then. The way I read the reductions, deferrals, revenue section on page 010, slide 3, please, about the list of deferral items that the bridge construction is included in, is that so far no commitment has been made in the 2024 budget for funding the construction part of Phase 2 of the bridge. If this analysis and my conclusion is wrong, I gladly welcome comments from the Director of Finance to properly explain the financial aspects of the deferral situation to me. My suggestion is that an additional category in the budget would be useful and designated as active but on hold and defined as being items that are still going to be funded and be active in the current fiscal year, but there is going to be a short delay experienced with the amount of time specified, like 3, 4, or 5 months, etc. If active but on hold is indeed what the status of of the bridge project is, I would like to have that confirmed tonight by city staff. From what Jeff Holman said earlier, it seems to me that it's not active and on hold. But I stand to be corrected on that. The R.J. Burnside Consultants identified 4 distinct phases in their award-winning design of this project. Phase 1 is finished. To assist taxpayers' understanding of the steps of the completion of this project, the financial steps in the completion of the project by the end of this council term of 2026, it's reasonable to ask the city to segment the reporting of the funding for this project according to the remaining phases as follows. For example, Phase 2, 2024 funding amount. Phase 3, 2025 funding amount. Phase 4, 2026 funding amount. Other budget items for 2024. In December 2023, I sent summarized emails to city staff of the main capital works emails that I had sent to them throughout 2023. That's the hard copy handout list that you have in front of you. So let's go on to more photos and the handout list of other Port Robinson projects. When I'm done, it's reasonable to ask city staff to give the page number and the name of the account line where each of these items is included in the 2024 budget, and when in 2024 will this project be scheduled? Question to the clerk. Can we go back one slide, please? Okay, sorry. We'll move on here to South Main Street Bridge and Eco Park. There is an additional item that has come up in discussions with residents. When this project is completed, the city anticipates that the bridge and Eco Park will have appealed to and it will be used by more than just Port Robinson residents, where in the beginning it was kind of envisioned as our village residents as the main users, but that's okay. Anybody can use it. Once Phase 2 is done, the residents in the residential area south of the bridge and Eco Park are expressing major traffic, safety, and parking concerns on South Main Street. This email explains the parking lot changes needed in Phase 3 requested by residents. Now, in this drawing diagram that's on the screen. In the middle, on the left side on the middle, you see that gray area with a black dot. That's the area of the proposed parking lot in Phase 3, basically for use by the kayakers, but that really needs to be expanded so that traffic doesn't go down South Main Street. Traffic main users to the park can come off of River Street. There's to that parking area and use the park from there. That's basically what the residents are asking for. So in summary, in the 2024 budget, the anticipated parking lot items in Phase 3, this expansion needs to be earmarked as future capital works expenditures upcoming in 2025. And now to the clerk, I'm going to skip over the next 2 slides, so please advance past them. There we go. But that's not the one. Wait a minute. Did I miss something here? Okay, somehow I messed up, but we'll keep going. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's the one I wanted. Thank you. Part 2, repaving of River Street. This slide shows asphalt deterioration of River Street. Next slide, please. And also much needed River Street Boulevard work. And the next slide, please. I have actually been sending emails to the city staff about this since 2018, and it's still, 2017, and it still hasn't been done. Part 3, sidewalk repairs. Now we go to the sidewalks. Okay, well, the one that you had on before anyway showed sinking, tilted, flooded sidewalks, which are part of the badly deteriorated visible infrastructure in Port Robinson East. Go back one, please. And one more. And one more. There we go. On Canby Street, we're looking east here at the railroad crossing. The city sidewalk ends, and then to cross the railroad tracks is a gravel path. And then on the other side, there's a gravel path, and then the sidewalk starts again. If someone could explain why there's no sidewalk up to the tracks on both sides. For anyone in a wheelchair, they have to go out onto the road and around a distance of probably 150 feet to get over the tracks and back to the sidewalk on the other side. Number 12, please. Sorry, go ahead, advance one more. There we go. Okay, this slide is looking east from the CN rail line on the other side of the street. Again, you see sinking, tilted, flooded sidewalks.
Ron, you have 1 minute left.
Okay. The traffic calming plan, I'm meeting with Sean Dunsmore on the traffic calming plan tomorrow, so I'll skip that. And I did make a delegation, an in-person delegation on January 16th about that. We'll continue on. Advance, please. Again, oh, there we go. That's good. That's good. 3 guardrails made of posts and guide wires need replacement in Port Robinson. Next slide, please. And the next slide. There's the 3 guardrails that need repair are within a few hundred feet of each other. And in this condition, there's definitely public safety and city liability issues. There's many streets in Port Robinson that need reconstruction. Go ahead on the slide, please.
Ron, your time's up. I'll let you wrap up, though.
Okay, yep. Just go ahead, please, with the slide again. There, again. Again. Slide ahead. Okay, there are many streets needing reconstruction in Port Robinson. And the next slide. And the next slide. And I respectfully suggest these streets are in worse condition than Broderick Avenue, which the city is currently totally reconstructing. Okay, I can now wrap it up there. I'll just mention there are 3 other items. The condition of the Port Robinson East municipal parking lot, the upgrade of the Port Robinson East ferry dock, that one is being addressed by a report to council, and signage at the Port Robinson East public washroom. There's a lot of confusion about when it's open and when it's not, so if that could be coordinated with the hours, well, it is supposed to be coordinated with the hours that the ferry dock is open, and if we could have a sign on the building indicating those hours, that would be great.
Thank you. I'm going to end it there and open the floor
Yep,
for
that's
questions to Mr. Deborah. Are there any questions from the floor? Seeing none, I want to thank you, Ron, for coming and presenting to council this evening, and thank you for your delegation.
Thank you for your time.
Up next, I have the Thorold Soccer Club. I'll call on Gene Citrigno, President of Thorold Soccer Club, for his delegation respecting the 2024 budget. Please note, you have 10 minutes to address City Council, and welcome, Gene.
Welcome. Well, it's been about 15 or 16 years since the last time I was here. I had a different hat and advocating for an arena, but that's not tonight's. Good evening, Mayor Ugolini, councilors, city staff. My name is Gene Citrigno. I'm the president of the Thorold Soccer Club. I've been involved with the soccer club as a player, coach, and now an executive member for a long time. I'm not going to tell you how long. It'll probably let you guess how old I am. But before I continue on why I'm here to speak tonight, a couple things. I would like to thank the City of Thorold and City Council for their ongoing support for the Thorold Soccer Club. Providing in-kind grants year after year, this helps greatly with keeping the cost of player registration affordable for most families in the City of Thorold. It also allows us to help families in need that might not be able to afford for their children to play soccer. The Thorold Soccer Club helps families in this way. Secondly, I'd like to take the time to thank Jeff Holman and especially Dave Baldoni and all their staff for always making sure that all the needs of the Thorold Soccer Club are met during our season. They do a fantastic job. And on behalf of the Thorold Soccer Club, thank you. The City of Thorold has grown exponentially in the last few years. So has the soccer club. I believe I read somewhere that one of the mandates of municipalities in Ontario are to provide recreation for the youth of the community. And in Thorold, there are volunteer groups that run these recreational sports groups. In one of these recreational volunteer groups, you need amenities. And we're growing, and we need more. Arenas, ball diamonds, soccer fields. If we look all around the municipalities touching Thorold and beyond, in the last 10 years, all these municipalities touching us have installed artificial outdoor turf fields. We are in desperate need of one of these in Thorold. We need it as soon as possible. Opportunities have come and gone, and I'm not going to talk about them tonight, but a few reasons why we need them. We need this. We are growing quickly. Our fields cannot take the amount of heavy traffic it's been getting in the last few years. If you ask the city staff guys, I'm on them constantly in the spring. We have to paint 5 different size fields on one field. Ontario Soccer Association demands that different size fields for different age groups. Then when it rains and the field doesn't have sufficient time to dry or drain, we get a call from staff and say that we have to close the field. This is not what we want anymore. It is embarrassing for us and the City of Thorold. We have teams coming from out of town, Toronto, Hamilton, Burlington, and we have to call them at the last minute to let them know that they can't come down and play because the field is just not playable. We also need it to host tournaments. And most importantly, we are losing Thorold players to other clubs in Niagara that have turf fields, that have the amenities to do training almost 8 to 9 months of the year. Parents want the best for their athletes and their children. They want the best amenities, and they'll go where they are. The turf field is not only used for soccer. It can be used for high school football, high school track and field, flag football, lacrosse, training for baseball, high performance training, field hockey, rugby, cricket, ultimate frisbee. It just goes on and on. A walking track, if we have that. So on behalf of the Thorold Soccer Club and their over 500 families that are members, we are asking if City Council could somehow find a way in the 2024 budget to do a detailed design study for a turf field in the City of Thorold. Secondly, if possible, if there are some monies that can be made available for some small updates to our current facilities for the 2024 season, possibly the same as other user groups have been granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene, and I'm going to open the floor for questions. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Gene, for coming. Gene, how many kids are you expecting this year to enroll in soccer? Just roughly.
Well, we're hoping we had just about 500 last year. We're hoping probably to get 550 this year.
How's that compare to the other baseball and hockey in town?
I'm not involved with them. I'm not sure, but I mean, from speaking to the other groups, they're not close to that number.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to, because I know for a fact that soccer is the biggest participating sport for youth. Thanks, Gene.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Gene. Gene, thanks for coming in. I'm a strong sports supporter. I've always been involved in sports, and I believe in it strongly for our youth. It's really important for many, many reasons. I just have a couple of questions for you regarding the turf field. Do we have to worry about damage in the wintertime, or are these now designed so that that's not an issue anymore?
I'm not an expert on them, but I mean, I've been to Welland, I've been to Niagara Falls, I've been to the two in St. Catharines. Their turf do have to be replaced over time, depending on how much use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the more they use it, the more they do break down. I'm not an expert on them, but I mean, I think the only maintenance is the turf when it does break down and it has to be replaced.
Mm-hmm. Can you play on it in the rain?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. Now, what about how many fields are you currently using here in Thorold?
For games, we're currently using Seagross for most of our games, and then South Confederation.
I see. So it's quite limited to where you can hold.
Yeah, we have an agreement with some of the school boards for practices to use the schools in town, and Glenn Gordon has been kind enough to let us use the field out at Rolling Meadows for practices. We can't host games out there. There's no lights, there's no washroom facilities, but for hour practices or hour and a half practices, we've used Rolling Meadows quite a bit.
And last question is just the design study. Do we have an approximate cost of how much that would be?
That'll be a question you can ask staff during
Okay.
the budget.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, you
Thank
have to ask staff.
All right. Thanks very much, Gene. Really appreciate you coming.
No problem.
I got Councillor D'Angelo and then Councillor Ditavides. Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Gene, for presenting. We did bring this topic up at the last council meeting to start looking for this. I just want to be clear, because I know my support is towards adding another field, not to turf a current field. I think the demand is there, so I just want to make sure that's clear. We're looking to, when we're doing a design study, site location, we're looking for an additional field. Is that correct?
That would be our preference, yes, for sure. That would be our preference. We need another pitch, and we'd like a turfed one for sure. Seagross is one of the nicest fields. Like, we get teams coming from all over. They love that field. It's a great field. It's deteriorating. The field's deteriorating. At some point, we're going to have to do something there. But we need to expand our programs to the spring and to the fall. So once Labor Day comes, that's it. We're done here in Thorold, because they want to close those fields. They don't want, the weather's if we have that turf field, we can go from maybe, depending on weather, March all the way till December. Like this December was pretty good. The kids are resilient. They'll go out there as long as it's not snowing or, they'll go out there in 3, 4, 5 degree temperature and train and practice. But yes, our preference is to have a new field, another field.
Okay, and then I just want to reiterate, I believe you stated this, but you're not just looking at a soccer pitch that's turfed, but a multi-use purpose facility, so that multiple sports can play, and we can add other amenities like a walking track, so that we don't have to pay to use it, so that it can
Absolutely.
be available all year. So I appreciate that answer.
We talked about it, like some of these places, they're community gathering places, like they're multi-use, like it's not just for soccer, like I said, it's not just for one, it could be used at soccer, it could be used for football, it could be used for seniors walking, it could be used for a lot of things.
Yeah, what comes to mind is Oaks Park in Niagara Falls. They have a field, track, also baseball diamonds, so it's multi-use, so you could do other activities while you're waiting as games are progressing, so which is good. And then the other question is, do you think you should have to wait 15 years before we build the field?
No. I'm hoping, our hope, like I said, I don't want to go to the past. I don't want to sound negative. There have been opportunities that have been brought before us. They haven't been successful. I think it's our time to do our own thing and try to do our own thing. And like I said, I think it's desperately needed.
Thanks for your answers. I appreciate you coming this evening to state the case for Thorold Soccer and what they need going into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dedevinis.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Gene, for coming in. I know you're busy, coaching, running the business. Time's precious, but thank you very much for coming in.
No problem.
I think the turf field is important to Thorold sports. It's crystal clear that we desperate need of a turf field for our community. Flag football's growing like crazy. We can use it for like soccer, lacrosse, with a track. My question is, would you consider a turf field at Thorold High? We have a great opportunity to help Thorold sports and make hundreds of families happy at Thorold High by getting a turf field which the community desperately needs and the school desperately needs. We'll be helping downtown businesses, our community, and Thorold High, all at the same time.
All I can say is we at the Thorold Soccer Club, and I'm going to speak for the club that I represent, we would like a turf field somewhere in the city of Thorold. Anywhere would be great.
Okay. Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Jean, for your presentation. Not that I want to give my age away, but I also played soccer at CE Gross, and I've coached my sister and my nephew's team out there at CE Gross. So I have to say that that field has been through years and years and years of all of us out there. And I agree that you do need to have a turf field. I mean, I've always thought that, and I hope to see that come to fruition. I guess, and it's not Oaks Park, but there's another field in Niagara Falls that has a turf field out there. Obviously, it's going to be an outdoor turf field and not an indoor turf field that you're looking for.
Outdoor, yes.
Yeah. So I just want to say that I'll advocate for that as well, because I think we need something like that, and we need it now. So thanks for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Gene, thanks for coming. Everybody has asked the questions I had. Yeah. So you need this, the city needs it, Thorold High needs it. There's a bunch of reasons to get it. So I'm behind it. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Mr. Longo, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, many of my questions have been asked. Gene, thank you for coming in, and thank you for being a volunteer. It's really appreciated. Without people like you, things don't get done. You mentioned the increase in your enrollment going from about 500 to 550 this year, so about a 10% increase. Has that been consistent for the last number of years? Have you grown consistently?
Yes, it's been growing quite significantly, and it kind of, depending on how well, it's funny, it kind of depends on how well the Blue Jays are doing or how popular soccer is. It kind of, the kids switch back and forth, right? But let me put it this way. 5 years ago, if I went to the soccer field or the arena downtown, I probably knew 90% of the people. Now, I might know 10% of the people. We have a lot of new people in Thorold, lots of new people. And we're getting to meet them, and the city of Thorold is becoming very diverse, that's for sure. We've got a lot of new people, and they love to play soccer.
Great. Yeah, I guess I'd have to agree. The growth in Thorold has been reflective in the growth in your sport, for sure. So it seems like everybody's kind of on board here, but you did bring something else up. You talked about some short-term money. For a sport growing so fast, I guess we do owe you something. Is there anything that you've discussed with staff that you need, or you could sit down with them
And do you have a ballpark on what you'd be looking for in
Well-
the short term, but not specifically a turf field?
I mean, we would be welcoming any amount that the other community groups got, sports community. If they got that number, we would, not saying we would use it all, but there are some things that need to be done this year, and I've spoken with Dave Baldoni on them. We had a flagpole at C. Gross. We used to put Canada flag, City of Thorold flag, and the Thorold Soccer Club flag, but it got taken down, and they told me they were going to put it back, but it hasn't been put back. And that was a director that's no longer here, but that flagpole, we would like to have it back if possible. The players' benches at both C. Gross and South Confederation need replacing badly. We were thankful that the clubhouse got renovated about 5 years ago. It was desperately needed that. Yeah, and there's a few other things, nothing major, but like our main ask here is a serious look at getting some money in the budget to get this ball rolling, or kicking the ball forward, as some people have said.
Okay, great. Again, I just want to thank you for everything you do for youth sport.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, Gene, I want to thank you for coming, and I will tell you that we do have a cricket field in Thorold on Town Line Road, and it's fully lit.
Yeah.
And it's one of the top cricket fields in the province. A lot of people aren't aware of that, but it is quite a facility.
Yeah.
So anyways, thank you for coming, and we appreciate your presentation.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on now to first item for consideration is the Thorold Museum budget request, and that's going to go up here. And it reads that that the draft budget for the Thorold Museum be received for information, and that the Thorold Museum budget request be referred to the 2024 Community Grants Program in accordance with the recommendations of report PWCS 67/2023, approved by council at its meeting held on June 20th, 2023. Is there anybody that, do we need a mover and seconder?
Yeah.
I need a mover and seconder. I got Councillor Longo and Councillor DeRose, and I seen Councillor O'Hara did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could make a friendly amendment that we add $2,000 for the added utility costs that the museum board will be facing once they move into the Carlton or take over the Carlton lease.
And I'll wait for the clerk to put that up, and then we can have discussions. Go ahead, Director.
Through Mr. Mayor, perhaps it would be just more considerate, more appropriate to add $2,000 to the community grants budget. The whole purpose of a community grant is you establish your funding envelope, and then you look at your applications and make your determination at that point.
Okay, you're good with that?
I'm good with that, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director of Finance, would it be necessary to add 2,000? Will we use everything in community grants?
Through Mr. Mayor, last year we didn't. This year you're looking at about, funding envelope of about $37,000. Last year it was about the same amount roughly. We only used about $15,000.
Okay, so do you think it would be necessary to add $2,000?
Through Mr. Mayor, based on past history, probably not.
Okay. Can we speak a little on this? Because you remember the motion was three parts. One was to get the lease agreement on the Canadian Core place, right? And that's the utilities for them to move in there. Am I correct? I just want... The 2,000 is to cover utilities on the building where the core was that the museum wants to move into, okay? Part two was to appoint a counselor on the museum board, but we won't, that's not part of budget. We can do that at a regular council meeting. at council's discretion. And part 3 was the budget part, which we're referring to community grant. Okay? Is everybody clear on that? Okay. And do we want, do you still want to add the 2,000? Our Director of Finance figures there's enough money in there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That'd be great if there was enough money in there. Is this not going to be a bit of a special year where there's going to be more requests for the community funding?
There could be. It's up to council. Do you want to add the 2,000 or not? And if we end up short, then we'll have to deal with it there at that time. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, the Finance Director. Can't we do that if it's necessary at the end? We can always add later on, correct?
Through Mr. Mayor, you can do a budget overrun partway through the year.
Okay? Yep. So we're not adding no money, then you can forget that. So the motion's on the floor. Is there any further discussion on that? I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Now, we're back on the floor with the budget. I don't need a mover and seconder yet.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, you'd put a mover and seconder, just put the
Just to
report on
put
the
it
floor.
back on the floor. Okay, I got Councillor D'Angela and Councillor DeRose. So the budget's back on the floor, and we've seen where we're starting. We've seen what's transpired with our presentations. So I'm going to open the floor up now and discuss any further movement anyone wants to make on the budget. So go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo, and then I got Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I just want to continue the talk regarding the artificial turf, because we finished off at the last budget meeting regarding that. And I know we sort of stopped there because you're waiting for the presenter to come forward. Because at that time, I was going to make a motion that we move forward with putting some funding aside for a design study site location. But before I do that, I'd like to maybe ask comments from our Director of Operations of what sort of cost are we looking for, number one, and number two, to our Director of Finance, what reserve can that be funded, because it should be a one-time cost that we're trying to develop here. So if I could have those two answers
Okay,
first.
so we'll start with Jeff, and then I'll move over to Maria. Jeff, do you want to speak on that?
Through Mr. Mayor, a lot of the cost depends on the location, which I don't know that we really identified yet, but a rule of thumb is generally speaking between $800 and $1.5 million. It depends on what amenities you add to the turf.
Oh, no, you're talking about the field. We're talking about the detailed design. Am I correct?
Sorry.
Well, just even preliminary site location and preliminary design to get, as it was stated, the ball kicked forward so that we can start working on this. I'm not looking for cost of the field yet, because we have to probably do a public session regarding site location, and then secondary, look at starting a schematic design of where we're headed with that, what groups are going to be associated with that.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Jeff?
So roughly 5% of the construction costs, so you're looking at something around $75,000 or $80,000 for just an overview. But once we get into detailed design, we may have to spend a little bit more on geotechnical and things like that.
So that gets the ball rolling, is what you're saying. Then you have to, then there's more cost once you go through that procedure to detailed design and construction. Okay, so now I'll ask the Director of Finance, Maria Morrow, to see where we could get a pocket of money.
Through Mr. Mayor, I believe we did discuss this at the last budget meeting, and we identified that there was some still unused funding in development charges, that we could do a reallocation and fund the design from the development charges.
Okay, so that would have no effect on the levy, okay?
So based on that information, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we move forward with a preliminary design study and site location process for 2024. What I would say, just with an upset limit of $100,000 to give staff that comfort feeling, because I know the Director of Operations said at 5%. Prices are going up every year, so I think that'd be a fair number. And I love the idea that it's coming out of the development charge reserve. Our community is growing, and it's a great place to take money for new amenities that this community needs, wants, and is asking for.
So we got that motion. I need a seconder. I got Councillor Longo. And the clerk's putting it together, but Councillor Longo, you had your hand up. Did you want to speak to that?
Just to another item, so
okay.
I'll wait till this one goes.
And someone said Councillor Hanley's hand's up. Did you want to speak to this point, Councillor Hanley, or you have something else? Okay, I'll come back when we get to that. Right now, we have a motion on the floor. Oh, did you want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor DeRoe.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, just to staff, a great location, just not to jump ahead, but could be Monsignor or Our Lady of Holy Rosary School. Was it possible for staff, before they initiate the design, if we do vote for that, to maybe consult with the Catholic District School Board to see if they have any interest? I know they're going to be putting one up at DM, Dennis Morris High School. So I'm just wondering, I could help in any way from people I know there. I don't know, just a thought that maybe share some of the cost might be helpful, beneficial going forward. Could I just get some feedback from staff on that idea? Thanks.
Well, I think all that can be addressed at the public meeting portion, okay? So that's where, right? Am I correct? Because that's when you're looking at various sites, okay? Okay, we're going to look at the motion. Go ahead. I'll let the clerk read it.
And I'll just confirm wording with, I'll ask finance to please.
Through Mr. Mayor, just the second line, that the study be funded from a reallocation of unused funding from development charges. And it's actually the Rolling Meadows allotment.
Okay. Is that good? And did you want to, you had your hand up,
Well,
Councillor
again,
Dion.
I'll refer to staff on this. Do you want an upset limit of funding that put aside, or is it an open dollar figure up there? I don't like writing blank checks. I prefer to put
Is
limits.
an upset limit of 100,000 sound very reasonable? To Jeff?
Yes.
Okay. You can put with an upset limit of 100,000.
And just to further elaborate that, I think we need to keep all site locations open at this point in time and not specific. I expect, this is my expectation, so we're all on the same page in a sense. I expect staff to come back with various site locations. We have a bit of a public process regarding that, similar to what was done when we opened the Outdoor Aquatic Center. It went through an extensive search.
Yeah, and I'm sure one of the sites will be looked at will be Rolling Meadows.
Yeah.
As well as other sites.
Yeah, and the pros and the cons, the constrictions, the time delays, all that stuff is put together before any work is done on a preliminary design site, schematic. So no money will really be spent to the extent of that until the site location. But, you know, if we go through this process, it's middle of June and it's decided on a location, then you can start moving forward because there's money put aside for that. That's my expectation. And through you, Mr. Mayor, is that a reasonable, I'm not saying June, but a reasonable expectation of coming back with different sites, and their constraints and their opportunities and the pluses and minuses of each one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, I think that's the approach. We'll look at all the green spaces. We'll see where a facility that works for the soccer group fits, and then we'll come back with different options.
Yeah, and to take into Councillor DeRose's, we're open to partnerships. That needs to be factored in if there's availability. But again, there's sometimes issues with that. I'd like to see all that in a report. So that's the direction I like to go. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we got the motion, it's there. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then I had Councillor Longo that you wanted to speak to something else, and then I had Councillor Hanley that wanted to.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I have the floor. Do I continue? Because I have another item too.
Okay, you still have the floor then, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to bring up the one item that Mr. Jean brought up regarding the flagpole and looking for additional fundings for soccer. I don't see that as a soccer expense. I see that as a community expense. All our municipal facilities should have flagpoles flying. If it was taken down, it should be replaced. So I don't see the specific soccer costs. So through you, Mr. Mayor, is there funding anywhere in the budget to put up that flagpole, or do we need to add funding to this budget to get that flagpole back up?
There was a flagpole that was taken down, obviously, when they did the work, and it was never replaced from what I can gather.
I don't think there's anything specific for a flagpole at this location.
Okay, no, well, I'm just thinking, like, do we need, I guess my question is, do we need to add more funds, or do we have funds somewhere that we can draw upon through our regular maintenance budget that we can put up a flagpole?
Well, soccer talked about that. They talked about some benches, like there was a few items that he mentioned.
Yeah, well, yes, that, soccer's a different one. This is, to me, a community. A flagpole is a community. We have a flagpole in front of City Hall. We put some up elsewhere. We put them up in Beaver Dams Park. This is a municipal park that requires a flagpole. I don't see it as a soccer expense. I see it as a general expense to the city of Thorold. So if there's no funding for that, I will make a motion that we put $5,000 aside for a flagpole at this point in time.
And we'll find out. Go ahead, Maria.
Through Mr. Mayor, deferring to Mr. Holman, I'm not sure that they have any money in their regular maintenance budget to cover flagpoles. So if council wishes, I'd suggest you just put it in the levy.
Okay, that's my motion then, and I believe we spent $5,000 on the ones in Beaver Dams, on something similar. So I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we allocate $5,000 from the levy towards a new flagpole at CE Gross to replace the one that was removed and never replaced.
Seconder? Councillor Sen. Okay. Any discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Didovino.
Didn't Jean say there was 3 flagpoles? Like there's one for soccer and there's 2? Would 5,000 be enough?
I don't know if there was 3. I don't know if that's a protocol you can do that. I don't think you can. I don't think flag protocol allows 3 flags on one pole. There is a protocol, believe me.
Well, right now, I would like to, step 1 is to get a Canadian flag flying on the
Okay,
park.
so we got one for, that's for a single flag pole. Okay, there's 5,000. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion regarding that? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Okay, I don't want to monopolize the floor, so I'll let other councillors speak and bring motions forward. Thank you.
Councillor Longo, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor D'Angelo. You're reminding me of a soccer goalie. They get to grab the ball and don't let go. Anyways, I did want to discuss further with soccer the request from Mr. Citrigno to get some annual money in the budget for soccer. It's got 500 athletes. It's growing at a 10% clip, and we really don't put anything in there specifically for them. So I'd like to maybe see where we're at with the budget and try to come up with a number that'll keep us in line here and devote some money to soccer this year.
Okay, so you want, that's duly noted. We'll come back to that. Is that okay, Councillor Longo, once you see where the numbers are?
Yeah, that's fine, unless we want to bring it up now and deal with it.
I'll ask Maria to bring it up now. That's fine.
Because I understand there's a number that many councillors want to stay at, so if we could try to make it fit.
I'll just wait, Counselor Sentence, till I get that, okay?
Pardon me. Here's what was changed. We've got the 31,000 that was the revised start position savings outlined by the CAO. We've got the design of the turf field coming from a reallocation from development charges, and we've got the flagpole that was just added. Where we are right now is 2.97%.
Okay, thank you.
Or $5,000 lower than when we came here this evening.
So we come in, we started at 295, correct, today? Yeah, okay. Did you want to speak any more to that, or do you want to wait and come back?
Well, no, I'd like to keep the conversation going. I think we should deal with this. Soccer needs some money, obviously. They're growing. We commit money to other sports. So I'd like to pick a number. We picked a number for baseball. I think maybe if we start at 20,000 for the year. I don't know what the appetite of other councilors is, and if there's a way that we can make this number work.
Okay, do you want to put 20 and then we'll work from there, Councillor Longo?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so we have a mover. Can I get a seconder? I got Councillor DeRose, mover, Councillor Longo, that we add 20,000, and that is earmarked for soccer facilities. Am I correct? Okay. Now we can have a discussion. Councillor Sentence has had his hand up for a while. I know Councillor Hanley wants to speak on something else. I'll get him. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten you, but let's start with Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with this. My question would be to staff, and maybe I should know this. So if it's put into budget, $20,000 yearly, and they don't use it all, does it accumulate? Like if they only use $10,000 this year, would they have $30,000 the year after?
Through Mr. Mayor, that would have to be, a motion would have to be passed at the end of the year, or right now saying that any surplus be carried forward specifically for soccer. Otherwise, it'll go into the general surplus.
Well, I think that and baseball, I think it should just stay with the sports, but I don't know if you'd be open to that, Councillor Longo, or if you agree with that or no. It's like, I think the money left over should stay with the sports yearly.
Is that a friendly amendment for you?
Yeah, if the rest of council is okay with it. Again, I just want to find a number that we're all comfortable with.
So that's a friendly amendment that anything left over carries forward, okay? Anybody now want to speak to the motion on the floor? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
I just want to know where we are in terms of percentage. As I stated last meeting, if you're gonna, I'm sticking at 2.99. I'm not moving. Not going to support it.
No, and that's correct. No. That's why we're going to add this, then we're going to see where we are, and then we'll look at other things.
Okay, I'd like to just make my comment, and then you could comment after it if you like, but I'm sticking at 2.99, not more, not well, less would be nice, but it's going to be 2.99. So I'm, again, challenging my councilors. If you put something in, take something out if you want to keep it at that number. So that's what I just want to let everyone know that's where I'm going.
Where are we at with that, Maria?
3.07.
3.07, okay. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to either the CAO or Director of Finance, is there any further delays we can make to some of these new positions to satisfy councilors? And I'm one of them too, that want to keep this number at 2.99. Is there a way we can do this? Because this is a late ask by soccer, and if we can't do it, it can't stand in the way of getting this budget passed. So we need to either be creative with our numbers. We've got 21 positions. If we delay one or two by a couple of months, does that get us to where we need to be?
You look at that, well, and that's a good point, and he'll look at that, and we'll continue the discussion on go ahead, Councillor Dedavides first.
To help work the budget, if we go from 20 to 10, will that make the number work?
That would make it work, I think.
And then next year, we'll just earmark 20 towards it.
Okay, and
But I agree with Councillor Longo, soccer's growing, it's a very affordable sport, and everyone's
Well, we'll
playing.
get the difference in the numbers, and then I got Councillor Hanley, he's been waiting, and then I'll bring Councillor Decker. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley. Go ahead.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hanley. Sorry, Councillor Hanley, we're having a little difficulty hearing you. Your sound is coming through, it's just a little quiet, but just to confirm your question, there's no time limit or hard stop at 8:30 tonight. Council can continue past that timeline until the budget is passed if you wish.
That's right.
The budget's late, and when would
We'll try to get him back.
What, did he conk right out?
Yeah, it just looks like we lost Councillor Hanley on the feed.
He'll come back.
We'll bring
We'll
him
get him
back in.
back.
I'll send him an email.
Okay, Councillor O'Hare, did you want to speak? Because we were waiting for Councillor Hanley to come back.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I support this. I think it's a wonderful idea, a great move to support our soccer here in the city. Finding the balance, that's the challenge. But I'm not sure if I can do this, but I'm going to suggest that we take 5,000 from the additional 10,000 that was put to the market and apply it to soccer. I think we can make the market work on the 30,000 budget. So we take the 5 and move it over, if that helps out.
I'll let our Director of Finance tell us where.
Yeah, that balances it back to 299,
What, 5,000?
the 5,000.
Okay. So we've had a suggestion. He says that they can make that work with taking 5,000 from there, allocating it here, and instead of 3.07, we're 299, correct? Okay. So I need a motion for that? Okay, so we need a motion to allocate 5,000 from the farmer's market to the soccer ask. You're moving it. Who's the seconder for that? Councillor Decker. Is there any discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
It's more of a procedural thing. It's more of discussing how we're moving forward because baseball and soccer are going to get an annual amount now that they can spend on projects. So I think we need to work with them so that we give them a timeline of, and I'm looking at our Director of Finance, when they come and present what they'd like to see spent the next year with that money, I don't like the idea of having it sit there for the following year. If there's necessities that need to be done, they have to be planned out properly, and coming last minute's not doing it. So my question to the Director of Finance, when would you expect a request for that funding, the utilization in the next year? So is it November, is it October that you would be looking for?
Go ahead, Maria.
I'll defer to Jeff.
Through Mr. Mayor, I think it's fair to ask the groups at the end of their season where we missed this year and where they're growing next year. But there needs to be probably some accountability, some type of financial statement to show that the money's going to good use. And I would recommend that we have that conversation with them when we talk about user fees and preparation of the fields and what their expectations are. So it kind of have to include that all in a larger package when it comes to what is it we're asking the users to pay for and what we're asking the taxpayers of the municipality to pay for. Well, I think the short answer is there should be at least a year-end discussion to see how the money was spent and some type of explanation, and council should be able to ask questions to get the answers that they need.
Okay, I know I don't have to put in the motion, but I just want to make sure that's direction, that we communicate that to the organizations so they're all on the same page, because you can get a lot accomplished if you plan for it properly as opposed to doing it last minute. Usually you could get better costs, the staff can manage their time, and more can be done with a proper plan. But again, that's working with the user groups. I know Jean and Chris Green are excellent people to work with, but they may not always be there. So I think it's important that that sort of policy procedure, it's at a staff level that gets implemented so that it happens.
And if you look here, and I think what you're seeing, that this money's earmarked to improve facilities. It's not earmarked for operating costs. It's earmarked for projects like that he mentioned tonight, some of the things that need to be done there. The ball has said these are things we need. So it's to improve the facilities for baseball, for soccer, and that's what the money's, and this motion does say it's for facilities.
So just to jump in, Mr. Mayor, for a second, before we go back to Councillor Handley, we do have him back. Just to clarify the motion that we have on the floor, we have it currently that 10,000 be added to the budget for city soccer facilities, and that any surplus at the end of the year for soccer and baseball budgets be carried over to the following year for their respective uses. And that'll be followed by a $5,000 reallocation from the market budget, which would bring soccer to 15,000. Are those numbers correct?
It's 20 for soccer.
We had 20, but somebody brought it down to 10, so we're just trying to figure out what that final amount is.
When you used the number, what number did you use?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have 10,000 for soccer facilities and a $5,000 reduction from the market. So the allotment for soccer is 10,000
for this year. That was 10,000 for this year, not 20, to get us to 299. Okay.
And then you would have the 5,000 reallocation, which would give them 15 in the year. But no?
No. No. The five taken away there was included in how you got.
In that 10,000?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, just for the motions, then your motion would be for $5,000 be added to the budget for that, and then 5,000 be reallocated to make your 10.
How do you just?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest you actually do it separately, that $10,000 be added to the budget for soccer facilities, number one. Number two, that the farmer's market budget be reduced by $5,000.
Okay, that's all. Simple. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we can do that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. So, that's not to say that soccer, we aren't interested in giving soccer more money, but that's where we're at to get to that number. Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask again, is there a way we can defer a start position of a new hire to get this soccer number up higher, to be more equitable and closer to baseball?
Go ahead, Councillor Handley. While we're doing that, I'll give you the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, we may be able to. I actually sent councilors, a couple of councilors emails today in regards to the hiring dates. My first question was going to be, if I could, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the appropriate staff member, when we do job postings, how many weeks are the job postings up for? 4 weeks, 6 weeks?
I'll ask Manoj to answer that.
Mr. Mayor, 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks is the answer. Okay,
thank you. Second question through you, Mr. Mayor. If we were to pass the budget tonight, bylaw would come in effect. Would the bylaw for the budget be presented at the council meeting of February the 6th?
No, it would be tonight.
It would be tonight? Okay, well, I'll just skip to the chase here. If it takes 4 weeks to do the hiring, if we passed it tonight, the month of February is a 28-day time frame. By the time we got the request for proposals or the advertising into the newspaper, we'd probably only be about 2 weeks before April 1st. I had written down that I believe that we can defer more of the jobs positions that are going to be allocated for April the 1st and push them up to May the 1st. Customer service, if we pushed it up a month, would save $5,910 on my figures. If we pushed up the procurement office a month, that's $5,032. We pushed up the associate director a month, that's $14,935. We push up the special events coordinator to May 1st, that's $9,058. We got the building inspector, that would save us an additional $9,718. And then we got the proposed utility individual, that would be $7,393. We could save an additional $52,046 for my calculations, because I don't want to be rushing in to hiring these individuals. I'm all for hiring them, but I don't want to rush into it and that stuff. And then, you know, hey, it happens that sometimes the person that we get just isn't the person for the job. And we already had that discussion, you know, making the special events coordinator is going to be a full-time position. You don't want to run into hiring somebody and you find out that the person you hired isn't the person for the job, and now you're stuck with them. So I'm wanting to think that we could defer all the jobs that are posted for April 1st, except the new parks employees for a month. As I mentioned, the customer, I'd like, you know, if council's in agreement or some of them, we could do the customer service, the procurement officer, the associate director, the special events coordinator, the proposed utility individual, the building inspector, and we say $52,000. If council, I'd like to hear council's feelings about it. They're still all gonna get hired. We just deferred them for 1 month, and we're not rushing people into a position, and it gives the city more time, because May 1st is only, you know, we're gonna be February 1st. It's only 2 months away. It's only 8 weeks. It's not that far away.
Okay, and I'll let our CAO speak, and then I'll open it to the floor, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senior staff took back direction from council. They looked at it, and then they have come up with a recommendation, which is in front of council. Staff will take any advice from council as they, you know, as direction, and then we will defer it, whatever you think is. But from our perspective, that's the collective thought process from senior management team. And we looked at every position. Yes, of course, we can defer these positions for even 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, and then we can find the savings. But some of those positions are required, and that's the reason we have suggested those dates. But of course, if we need to find some more savings, we can look at it, especially if we defer it, depending on how much money we want to.
We need, from what I can gather, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're 10,000 short, right? If we want
That's right. I could put up one position in
20,000.
If we do
10,000 short to get to 299.
So okay, if we are that.
Yeah. If I could, Mr. Mayor, through you,
Yeah,
if we
go ahead.
deferred, even I put on the floor that we deferred the building inspector position for 1 month, my calculation is that we saved $9,718. I missed the first part of the meeting. I don't know if that was one of the deferrals on the jobs.
Wait, Councillor Hanley, I don't think the building inspector, I think that comes out of permit fees.
That's right.
So I don't think that really isn't factored. Did you want to speak, Maria?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just did want to point out that building comes out of the building reserve. It doesn't impact the levy, and the other water positions come out of the water and sewer reserve and not out of the levy.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, if I could, thank you for that information, I appreciate it then. Then if one position is 9,058 would be the special events, if we deferred that for 1 month, or even 2 positions, the customer service representative and the procurement officer 1 month would be a saving of $11,000 right there. And it makes up our $10,000 shortfall.
We'll open the, thank you, Councillor Hanley. I'll open the floor to that. And I got Councillor Longo who wanted to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not my intention to defer $58,000 in employees, because we've decided these employees are vital to the city. A lot of them are necessary. My question was to the CAO, is in his expertise, does he believe there is one that we may defer for a month or 2 that is not vital? And if it is, great. If not, then we'll have to tell soccer we can't get to 20,000. So
that's a good point, and I'll let the CEO respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I looked at all this position, and I have very brief discussion with Councillor Longo as well, we have been without our procurement officer for all these years. By deferring that position for another month is, of course, we need that position as soon as possible. We want to make sure that when we contract everything out, it is done appropriately. However, that's the only position that I can think about to defer for a month. That would be a saving of, I'm assuming, Director can able to tell us about $9,000 or something.
9,000.
Okay, so if we defer that for 1 month for 9,000, and we put that 9,000 to soccer, that gets them to 19, and we're at 299, correct?
I'll put that motion on the floor if I need be, Mr. Mayor.
I will, but I just want to get verification
So
on that, Councilor.
can I
Hanlon.
get clarification? You're going to take 9,000 out of procurement, and you're going to give soccer 19.
Yes,
Yeah, you're at 299.
we're at 299. Is everybody good with that? Councilor Hanley wanted to make a motion on that, okay? Councilor Hanley, you want to make that motion that the procurement office?
Sorry, just procedurally, Mr. Mayor, we have two motions that kind of accidentally went on the floor, so I'm wondering if we
Okay.
could just go back to the 10,000 to soccer, get that done, then you could take another motion from there as you want to go.
19,000 to soccer.
Well, no, this is why we can, I know where you're coming from, but we need to get this done to feed the other.
The discussion, absolutely, but the actual motions, we just kind of want to slow that down a little bit.
Okay, we'll slow it down. Okay, hold it, Councilor Hanley, we'll get to you.
Oh, I'm good. I'm going nowhere.
Okay, so, there, that's it. Okay. That's the way to do it, and then we'll go and we'll do the other one. You're right. Okay. Okay. Here's the motion. That 19,000 be added to the budget for the City of Thorold soccer, for City of Thorold soccer facilities, and that any surplus each year be used to respectively offset the operating budgets for soccer in the following year. Is that the way we want it? Councilor DeRose?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Where did the 5,000 from the farmer's market go?
It's in there.
It's in there, okay, thank you.
Okay. And everybody good with that? No. Okay. Did I get a mover and seconder before on that?
We originally had Councilor DeRose, Councilor Longo, you said.
Users good still with that? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we got to go and get the 10,000 that we put there. So the clerk will work there, and that's the point. And Councilor Hanley, you'll be the mover on this, okay? And
Yes,
once it gets up there, and I'll need a seconder for once we get it. Oh.
So originally you had requested Councilor O'Hare and Councilor Decker?
Oh, on this 5,000.
On the 5,000?
Okay, this is the 5,000 that got moved. Okay, so we have to actually do three motions. So this is the 5,000. I had a mover and a seconder. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And now finally, we got to do the other one.
So now, Mr. Mayor, you can seek a motion to defer the procurement officer start date by a month.
And I have Councilor Hanley that's moving that, and I seen Councilor Longo's hand up to second it. Okay? So that is to defer the procurement officer hiring by 1 month, and that is the $9,000 that we moved over to the other point. Okay? Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Maria, do you want to speak? Show us where we're at. 299, I think, is the question.
That's correct. 299.
299. Is there anybody else that wants to add anything else or take it away? Councilor Hanley, your hand up still, or are you good?
I want to put a motion on the floor that we accept the 2024 budget as presented.
We have a motion. Can I get a seconder, Councilor Sentence? Do we speak to that, or is that it?
No, you can just call it. Yeah.
Everybody good?
No.
Go ahead, Councillor
Yeah,
Dan.
Mr. Mayor, I have no issue with the operational budget at 2.99. I have some capital questions because we really didn't delve into capital. Are we ending all budget discussions and then that's it?
Councillor Hanley, is this good for the operating? Because Councillor D'Angelo wants to ask a few questions on capital.
I'm good with the whole budget because as Councilor DeAndrew said, if he's gonna change anything in the capital budget, we're gonna have to take something out if you're adding anything. So if you're not adding anything, I think we're pretty good, myself.
Yeah, I'm not adding any of the capital, but I want some clarity on one of the capital projects.
Okay, so I'll let him ask that.
Go ahead.
Then we'll come back to
Yes.
the motion. Are you good with that, Councillor Hanley? Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question there, Councillor Dion.
Okay, I know we've added in the budget this year the mausoleum. If I could maybe get our Director of Operations to elaborate on where that's going, timelines. I know we have the funding there. I do have some additional questions, but it's one of the most important projects that we're trying to push forward from this council. So I want to have some discussion on this. I just don't want to walk away because there's people dying to get into the mausoleum and
Whoa, that's a play on word.
Yes. But, yes, some people got it, some didn't. But, no, if we could have a bit of update on the capital timelines, and I do have some other questions.
Go ahead, Jeff, can you answer anything, those questions?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure I heard the whole question, other than just to, do you want to run through every project? Or?
No, mausoleum.
I'm just,
Oh, the timeline of the mausoleum. Well, as approved tonight, then we'll finalize the design, get some public information, some public feedback, and then we'll be back to you with likely a proposal for a design build type of project that will be started probably in the third quarter of this year.
no, that's excellent. The other question I had is in the, and I just want to make sure, in the capital budget, I believe it's like 3 million. I don't have the number in front of me exactly. 3 million. Is that going to include some marketing to sell some of the crypts that are there? Like once the design is ready to go, we need to start marketing, and you could pre-sell stuff so that then it becomes less of a burden financially for the municipality. Like, is that included in the $3 million?
Is marketing the new crypts in that amount of money or not?
It's not included in the capital cost. You know, depending on the staffing and our ability to put staff in that new administrative building, we can start the marketing as soon as we have something to show people and to build. Because people will want to know what's available and when it's going to be available, right? And so I would say we really aren't going to be having anything to market until, you know, towards the end of the year or the beginning of next year.
Okay, all right. I guess even a simple thing, is there a waiting list if people want to get on a list to look for mausoleum crypts? Because right now there's very few there, so people are going to other locations to buy crypts right now. So if you want to start selling them, we got to start selling them sooner than later. The building doesn't have to be up because people are pre-purchasing them in advance. But again, that helps your financing at the end of the day, because if you could sell more than that are sold before the building is actually finished or paid for, at least you reduce the cost of it. So financing becomes a little easier. I just want to make sure that we're not missing that opportunity to start pre-selling and letting people know, like, this is what's happening here, and that there's available crypts that are going to be there for them to purchase, or even put a down payment so you can start moving the ball forward. So that's like, it might be in the regular operational budget of the cemetery, but we're still not in the operational building, and I think we're months, like maybe a secondary question is, when will the operational building be set? Because last time I was out there, it wasn't even started, and I don't know what's causing the delay there, but if I could have an answer to that one. I know we have the rentals of the portables, but eventually we need to make sure the operational building is there. But it's sort of twofold. Like, it needs to be marketed sooner than later, because you're going to lose the demographics that are really purchasing these right now. They're going elsewhere.
Thank you. And
Sorry, Mr. Mayor,
the question
The
regarding...
tender has closed on the admin building. The tender award report will be on the agenda for February 6th.
Okay,
So we'll be able to start construction. I can provide some more information about how we plan to roll out the marketing of the museum if you want at a future date. But there is conversation. We are getting some feedback, but we are not in a position to reserve spaces in the mausoleum until we know exactly how we're going to price them and you know, how we're going to promote them.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, that's, I think, an excellent idea. If we could have a report later on, just at least starting to put the skeleton around what's going to be done in terms of marketing of it, that's good enough for me. So that gives Mr. Holman and his staff some time to prepare that. I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
That answers my questions.
Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, before we're finished, I forgot my chicken scratch here. I'm not adding anything, but maybe Matthew, you could help me. I would, Councillor Hanley and I talked about this last time about reserves, and I know inflation and everything this year, but I would really like to see if it's staff direction or a motion to have 0.5% put into budget for the remainder of our years, not to set us to that. It can be argued in, out, up, down, but I'd really like to see a budget with us putting money into capital reserves every year in the budget, and then we can discuss from there. Is that staff direction? Is that a motion? I'm not asking for anything this year.
Talking about for next year.
Yes, to put into our budget deliberations as we're going now. Yes, that's what I would like to see.
I'll ask the Director of Finance. Is that something that we can look at putting in, and then council can decide how they want to proceed with it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as long as it's clear that this is over and above our normal
Yes, sorry.
reserve contribution.
Addition to.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is also focusing on reserves. There's a couple lines on page 151, Kiefer Mansion Asphalt Drive and Kiefer Mansion retaining wall. With the asphalt drive, I'm going to recommend or suggest we take it, we defer this. I've driven on it recently. It does need a couple of potholes filled, but I don't think it's necessary to do the repaving. And with the retaining wall, yes, there is some work needing to be done, but I think that what should be done first is there should be an inspection and an evaluation before anything moves on that. So those are just some recommendations and suggestions.
I'll get some response here from staff.
Through Mr. Mayor, the wall at Kiefer Mansion has some historical significance, so I'd like to touch base with the LACAC just to get their advice on what can be done. If we can cap it, make it safe, then that would be great. But if there has to be special materials, I'd like to come back to council with an update.
Okay, so why don't we let them bring a staff report back? It's in the capital. If we pull it out after, it's not affecting the levy. Okay? Okay? Councillor Sentence.
Just for clarity on what I brought up earlier, so I can ask that as staff direction, that's good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are we, anything else?
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor, I believe Councillor O'Hare had the two-part. The other one was driveway, so we need some direction on what we're doing with the driveway.
Okay, that one, we're gonna get a report back. The driveway, what's in the budget?
Yeah, there's 15,000 in the budget. Yeah, we could patch it. We could repair it and make it safe, as opposed to replacing it.
Okay.
Just to extend the life, if you wish.
Is that good?
That's very good. I think that's all we need at this time.
Five, so the other 10 can go back into Anything else? Counselor Hanley wants to bring that motion forward. Well, we got a seconder, Counselor DeAngelo, and I have a mover, Counselor Hanley. Okay. That, how would I say it?
So the motion is already on the floor. If Councillor Hanley would like to call the question and end all debate on the budget, he can do that. And you have a dual mover and seconder. There's no debate on that motion if you'd like to go ahead. Assuming that passes, we move directly to a vote on the budget as amended.
Okay. Is you good
Yes.
with that, Counselor Hanley?
Yes.
Okay, and I
Yes,
get a seconder,
sir.
Counselor DeAngelo.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
good.
I won't support calling the question. I just want to, there's no other debate, so we can vote on it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in calling the question. I don't think it's an
No,
appropriate.
no, we're not. Then we have the other motion on the amended, okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now, we're going to, report as amended. And then we go to bylaws, correct?
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, so report DF 2024 respecting budget 2024 as amended with all amendments tonight, okay? Operating, capital, deferred, we've gone through everything as amended. We have the list. I got a mover and a seconder for that, same mover and seconder, or? Yeah, I got Counselor Hanley, Counselor DeAngelo. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we move to bylaws, okay? Maria, did you want to put anything up before I go to bylaws? And then could you send a copy of that to all the council? Yeah, okay. Here is the final. And we're scrolling down. 2.99 net levy change after growth, okay? And I want to thank, before I go to the bylaws, I want to thank everybody, council, for all the work in the deliberation. I want to thank staff for putting together this budget and the hours that went into this before it even come to council. And then the work council did to make sure we got to where we wanted to be. And I want to thank everybody because it takes a team effort to move this ahead. So can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaws? Well, it'll be Bill 7, 2024, a bylaw to adopt the operating and capital budgets, and Bill 9, which is a bylaw to adapt, ratify, and confirm the actions of City Council at its meeting of January 30th, 2024. I got a mover, Councilor O'Hara, seconder, Councilor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And this meeting is hereby adjourned.